Welcome back, dear friends. It's been a while, but one or two things have happened. Last Saturday I was taking the dog for a run on the bike in the park. While I was on the bike, the dog was on its legs, hurtling along. She loves it, absolutely loves it. When she saw a squirrel and suddenly and unexpectedly darted right in front of my bike. I was hurt along, as I say, so I had to make a decision, split second. Huge vet bills or a week of absolute agony. Obviously opted for the latter. It has been hideous. I flew off the bike, she darted in front, I swerved, skidded, flew off the bike. Luckily the ground broke my fall, particularly my right hand shoulder and my left hand bottom, if that is such a thing. Oh, the fact that diagonal injuries means that if any sort of movement, like sitting down, standing up, getting in and out of bed, reaching for a drink, anything, is agony. It makes it impossible to manage the sort of pain-free movement. Anywho, mustn't grumble. It's actually started getting better. It's about a week later now. The exciting thing is, really exciting, I'm getting on with the ukulele machine. Now I can actually parambulate amongst the workshop equipment. I can start doing it. Let me show you. Last night I sat at the computer and just designed some brackets to clamp down the ukulele. Hold on a second. Like so, 4 of them, with an M4 screw, brass screw through it, a nice little disc that sits on the ukulele, and a little felt disc underneath that. That's nice. I thought as I was getting on with these, I've drilled the hole, as you can see, 3.3mm hole through the centre of the 10mm acrylic, and I'm going to tap that in a minute. And these, this morning actually, I thought, no, it looks a little bit plain with just a hole drilled through this, fixing it down. It needs something else, it needs a base. So that's a 5mm acrylic. I've engraved and cut them. Oh look, isn't that lovely? I'm so pleased with that. I'm going to glue that tap that, glue that together, and I'm going to paint them. I thought I wouldn't paint anything until I tested it all out, but I just am. I've put edges on here. I've glued the front on, that's right, you saw that gluing. I've cut some little bits of twiddly bit stuff, can't remember what it's called, moulding, and cut that and fitted that with mortar joints, pinned and glued that, and then I've painted the whole lot and stained it. And it's really shiny, but it's going to be more shiny soon. And I, as I've said before, I don't know about the size of this. It is just a piece of plywood that I had that the ukulele would fit on. I have absolutely no other plans, which is really quite exciting, I have to say. And as always, one of my favourite tools, the drill tap. Absolutely fantastic, with some isopropyl alcohol to lubricate and cool, especially because it's tapping plastic, which could quite easily melt if it gets too hot. I'm ready for the first lot of painting. We've started arranging it. So there's the baseboard, and I have made the decision, having tried it in all sorts of different positions, to have it diagonally. The main reason being that this wood isn't quite tall enough, I think, once this is surrounded by motors and drives and all sorts of other stuff, to have it vertical. Victorians may have had it vertical, but they're played at a slight angle, so I'm going with that idea. And it does look nice. I've decided, because I do like these look red felt. Ooh, they're lovely. It's so exciting making things like this. But I want them, I think they look lovely at an angle, but there's not room for them. And if I move the ukulele up far enough that way, it's just wasted space. So I have made another executive decision to make a fifth one of these, to put it there, because I think that will look lovely with those things. Sort of nice. Anyway, what I'm doing currently is I am actually thinking, which is lovely, I'm planning. There's the ever so useful chemistry lab clamp thing. and I've got a rod down here. I've got that designed and painted, as you know from before. That holds the stepper motor, the NEMA stepper motor that is, and down there. And I just wanted to check whether I'd got these things the right height, and I hadn't, because obviously we need the 4 pulleys along the bottom, and also they get in the way of this. So I'm just checking, and I had drilled that in the wrong place, so I'm measuring that up. Ever such a good way to do it, really simple. So I'll get on with that, get a new one of these designed, and also the fact is this can't go right across. So obviously the things on the drive belt have to go right down to sort of here really. So we need that there. That then sits out too much and gets in the way of that. So what I'm going to do is to design a support system that comes up and then hinges, sort of leans out over here. So that's good, and then that can sort of go back more round to there. I will get on with that, and then I will get back to you. Oh, and just, I don't know whether I mentioned it. These are, well, there we are. I'm using the timing belt, 6mm timing belt with a pitch of 1mm. That's all 1mm. And the belt I'm talking about is this, which I've had floating around for years, and I'm so pleased to finally have a use for it. It's lovely stuff, and it is really, really strong. It's not elastic at all. It's incredible stuff. It's what's used on the laser cutter, like I said last time, that is kept under such tension. And also in the background you may be able to hear the 3D printer merrily printing its way along, which also actually uses this specific 6mm type. Again, stretched very, very tightly, so there's no slack. Lovely. Right, I've taken the measurements and thinking about something shaped a bit like that to hook over the end of here to support those pulleys, but it also needs, because it's going to be being tensioned this way, thinking about possibly having a little plate on the bottom of it to make sure it can be screwed down firmly at that end. Oh, and of course I've just remembered, having stroked my face, that I have got what must be about 144 o'clock shadow, because my arm, even though actually does go up there now, ooh, because for the last week I haven't actually been able to raise my arm this high. But I can now. How exciting, I can shave. But we have the designs for the aforesaid brackets and things, so I'm going to get them cut out. Another day. Lovely. I'm so pleased that my hand can now reach up here. You forget as you get better how I couldn't actually lift my hand up anywhere near that. It's absolutely crazy. It's now almost a week. It's Friday, so it's tomorrow will be the anniversary of flying off the bike, and every morning I wake up and there's new pains. Some have gone, some have moved, new stabbing pains, and crazy. Definitely dog walking is going to be bipedal again, I can tell you. But this very morning it's all getting very excited. Let me show you what we're doing. I've put another one of these together, which is lovely, and just sanded the bottom once it's all glued together. And I sanded the rough side underneath that sits against the cardboard and the laser cutter with some wet and dry 400 grit sitting on some plate glass, a bit of plate glass I had floating around or even lying about. It's very useful for all sorts of things because it is a perfectly flat surface. I've also got those two lovely brackets made up with the sides glued on, and again sanded briefly on the bottom just to make sure they are flat. And now, dear friends, I'm putting together some more of these. If you remember, it's one of those. I made one first just to check that they were right, and they are, and they look nice. So I've got 3 more to make, because there's one for each of the strings. And they're such a joy to put together. There's a base. Let me zoom in so I can show you how it's all going to go horribly wrong once the camera's on. My son used up all my super glue without warning me. I like to keep a stock of it. Teenage kids, what are you going to do? I think it's payback time from when I used to take all sorts of tools out of my dad's shed there where he used to build beautiful furniture, and I'd just go whatever I need, spanners, screwdrivers, take them all down to the garage where I was working on cars and things, cover them in oil and then leave them there. It infuriated him when he couldn't find everything in its right place. So it is payback time. And oh yeah, this thing, look at, hang on a minute. So my wife, very kindly, when I realised I was running out, she ordered me some of these, a couple of these. I thought, well, that's good, look, accurate and this and that and the other. Then I opened one up. What a brilliant marketing ploy. Let me show you what's inside. Here's one I used up very, very quickly earlier. Because if you remember, the normal bottles I use are 10 grams, which are nice. 4 grams. How on earth? Yes, it's got squeezy things on the side. How on earth can that? Then I opened the bottom. I thought, oh, look at this, all this plastic. And if you look inside, there's just a 4 gram tube sitting there. Isn't that ridiculous? And they're advertising it as accurate. You know, you just squeeze as much as you want because your fingers obviously and your opposing thumb aren't capable of squeezing a tube such as this. So luckily I found I've got lying about. What is that? That's 3 grams. So just slightly low. Isn't that awful? What a waste of plastic and resources and everything. But a great marketing ploy. Disgusting. Anywho, mustn't grumble. Work with what you've got. So to put these together, because I've cut the base with slots, I'm going to get this piece and I'm going to get it all wrong and probably just reflect a load of light in the lens, but I'll put a, this is also not controllable at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. Phallus and wipes them off. And then I'm going to slot that like that, making sure, of course, that the engraving's on the right side. Your lovely V block, as always, just to get it right, angled. Let that sit for a while on the plate glass base, and then I can glue on this little bit. Let's glue that on. I'll stop talking and get on with it. Look at that. What fun. The other great thing is because it's plate glass, even if the glue runs out the bottom because the stupid applicator squeezes out too much, it doesn't matter, you can get it off. Lovely. Well, I'll finish putting these together and then get them painted up. There's the baseboard, and here are the holes. I've marked them out. I've drilled them, pilot drilled them to 2mm diameter, and then countersunk the heads because, as you know in the past, a top tip. Here's one of the things I want to screw onto it, which has got flat base. If I put that on there and then put wood screws such as this one into it, the wood has to go somewhere, even though you've got a pilot hole, so it sort of digs it all up, and you get like a little volcano, which then very unconveniently actually lifts this up. So you don't actually get it sitting absolutely flat, whereas if you have a little countersink around the top, it just gives it enough so that when you screw it in, there's somewhere for the wood to go and it will sit flat. This is terribly, terribly exciting because I'm actually going to start screwing bits down. Whilst the beautiful paint is drying, I'm going to get on with working out how to move one of these bearings up and down the strings, in effect achieving this. So in effect, some way of having the two ends of the belt with the bearing supported to it runs up and down in some sort of holder. It shows you how useful it is sketching, because I have spent quite a long time when I can't sleep at night because of that pain thinking about this. It's a very good way of going back to sleep actually. But once you start sketching and get a feel for it, and then I moved on as I started giving measurements and things, thinking, well, laser cut a bit over here from 3, 2 pieces of the metallic card, 1/2mm spacers, then you can have the sides made of 1.5mm. And I just went to the computer and started drawing it out on the CAD software, and realised actually suddenly in a flush of genius, this is the perfect job for the 3D printer. It is absolutely made for this sort of thing, especially as it can be printed this way up if it's one piece, and because it's got this arch shape to allow the bearing to sit in place, that's fine. It will happily print that because it's not suddenly stepping into space. It can slowly go over, and I know because I've tried it before, it happily manages that. That means forget all these spaces. Oh, what a joy. So what I'm going to do is to go and put my leg up for a while, because it's getting too painful. Have a rest it a little bit, and then I'm going to come back down and start creating in the virtual 3D building world one of these. Will you look at that? It aligned beautifully, and I've just finger tightened them because obviously they're not very thick. I don't want to risk snapping them, but that's perfect. How lovely. Now it's time to fix these two funny looking bits down. They're going to support the pulleys. Focus. Now, 5mm hole, and 5mm hole, I know because I drilled it, and 5mm rod. And the problem is, it will not go through the hole, it will not go through the pulley. The reason being, and these pulleys will actually fit onto here, there we are, proof in the pudding something or other, is because this shaft on the stepper motor is actually 4.9mm, or possibly even 4.8, because you need to allow a gap, tolerance gap. Two things that are the same size will not fit together. It took me quite a while, some time back, I hasten to add, to work that out. So what I'm going to drill them out to is 5.1mm, and luckily for some unknown reason, but I'm very pleased I have a 5.1mm drill. Those who've watched my videos before will know that I have a predilection for making a beautiful, even though I say so myself, pieces of stuff and painting them up nicely and then ruining them by drilling holes in them. Ridiculous. So, paper to hopefully not scratch the underside, cotton gloves hopefully to stop scratching it. Let's see whether it's worked. Nothing's shattered or flown about. That's better. That now fits beautifully in there, and I can get a grub screw put in. I've managed to, yeah, let's ruin the paint job a little bit, but never mind. Onwards and upwards. There's the culprit. Oh, bless her. She doesn't know how much harm and pain and grief she's caused. Bless her. By the way, there's milk cartons and stuff on the floor because I can't actually bend down to pick anything up. I'll take them out to the recycling. Anyway, whilst she's happily shredding some tissue which I won't be able to pick up, look what's happening. This is so exciting. Look, spinny things there. They look beautiful. Just using a crocodile clip to grip the ends of this belt together, because look, even more exciting. I'm getting them lined up, and I realised the best way was to fix the belt onto one end, the pulley at one end, because the strings come slightly together. It's only by a couple of mil or something, but it's still significant, all the way up to this. So now I know that goes right over that string, and I've done it for all four of them. I did wonder whether to have all four motors at the top, but it just looked nicer with having them spread out a bit. So that's nice. That's so exciting. Let's turn it around and see what it looks like the right way up. I am really pleased with this. Having those 5 clamps looks lovely. And also, because the other thing is you don't want too much of one colour like brass or something. But having the pulleys, I know you won't be able to see the centres of them, but nice and shiny silver, nice silver steel rod. Moving on up, the first 2 stepper motors and the other ones. I've left them black because they look really nice against the brass. As I say, you don't want too much the same colour. I'll eventually hide the wires and things in copper tubes and stuff. So that is so exciting. My next job is to, oh yeah, of course, my next job is to design this for the 3D printer, the things that are going to hold the ends of the drive belt together and support the little bearing that's going to run up and down on here. It's time to get onto the wonderful 3D builder, free to download if you've got Windows 10 or whatever. Absolutely amazing, so intuitive and simple to use. That's why I love it, because I have got Blender, but Blender, which is also free to download, is so complicated. It's incredibly powerful, but every time I go to use it, I have to relearn everything from how to change the view to, well, practically everything. It takes hours. Whereas 3D Builder is very, very intuitive, and I'm thrilled with it. And you can input data, values and things if you need to. So here's the design that I came up with. Might as well start somewhere, print it out and see. I've made all the little bits 0.2mm smaller than necessary, because if memory serves, all the 3D prints end up just that little bit bigger. Let's get it printed. Ta-da-da! Look! Isn't that amazing? Absolutely incredible. It did take a couple of experiments, mainly to get the pitch right on these bits, because obviously I want a way of that, which, because I'm doing, there we are, to fit in there, which it now does, because the pitch wasn't quite 1mm, it was some strange 2.5mm or something. But that's great, so that fits in there. There's the bearing that's going to be doing the sort of fingering thing. Look at that, that just pushes. Oh, I've got to zoom in because this is wonderful. Look, there's even a little spacer either side to hold the bearing in the centre. Beautiful. Now I have gone ahead and ordered two 8mm diameter, 3mm thick deep bearings, but obviously hasn't arrived yet, so I thought I'd just print one to mimic it, because that's going to roll on the underside of the drive belt. And again, that just spins. Isn't that amazing? I can't go over it. There's the equivalent spacer on this side, and then you just put that like that. Well, look, it just pushes together. So you've got the bearing in the centre to roll up and down. You've got the roller in the top to allow the drive belt to go over the top, so this is sandwiched between them. That will also give it more pressure downwards, because it's bearing on two of the belt surfaces. And you've got these two little side bits here to guide it, to stop it twisting like this. I have no idea whether it's going to work or how well it's going to work. But I'm now going to get it set up on this first one. We'll give it a go. Right, got it connected. The great thing about this is that it will leave enough room for four of them to travel up next to each other without knocking into each other. So there are good points and there are bad points. I mean, it does work on principle, which I'm very pleased about. Now, as I suspected, as well on my measurements, I'm going to have to adjust this, because it's just touching that string, and obviously it needs to bear down on it, and also there's a gap between this top, so that needs to be moved up. But you know, well, let's move the pulley on the stepper motor. So there you go. So that can go. Does it go far enough? Yeah, that goes to the furthest fret, and then that can shoot back, that's 200 RPM or whatever, and go all the way to that. So lots of good points. Still a little bit of work to do, but that's absolutely fine. I wanted to get this done because, as I say, you can plan to your heart's delight, but now I've actually started making stuff. Print one, test it, find improvements, and they're a little bit loose on these bits, so I can make that a little bit higher. So thanks very much for watching. Next time, getting this finished, getting it working, and getting some motors wired up so we can actually see it moving, and obviously some sort of limit switch so that when it starts up it can find where it's going to, so an excuse for some more exciting things to come over. If you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe and click the bell button, whatever. Hope to see you next time. As always, I'm always happy to answer any questions or queries that you may have in the comments. Thanks again. See you next time.